Was there something personal about why you love intervening in a sense, war-torn Beirut that is maybe your earliest memories, but also it's the civil war stuck in time?
Yeah.
Is there a personal reason that you do this? Because I'm curious about how you could intervene anywhere you want, yet you're deliberately choosing war relics.
Yes, because they bother me.
They bother you.
They bother me a lot. Yes.
Tell me why. Why?
Seeing them since childhood, I look at them as monsters in the city. I look at them as something that is just spreading negativity, and we don't need that anymore. The creativity that's happening in the streets, it's really mind-blowing for me. I saw many things happening, like how people reclaimed the public spaces. It's just amazing. I'm seeing also art interventions that are happening without people knowing that they are doing art interventions. Like, for example, the ring bridge that always served as a separation between the rich, gentrified area of Solidaire and the poor like neighborhood of Beirut. And today this bridge became a football field, became a $0 Airbnb hotel. It's really nice what we are witnessing. I'm also so amazed with what's happening to the egg, how it became by nature, without any plans or strategies. It became the hub of the cultural debates and talks, and how everyone is, like, even if you're not a street artist, you see a lot of people spray painting everywhere, expressing their feelings. Yeah. So for me, it's something the first time I witnessed.
So in everything, not what people are calling for, but it's also the creative energy is special. That the art is, you've never seen people express themselves this way.
Yeah, many things led to this. I think it's also the first time a protest stay. Usually it's directly transformed into chaos and fights in the streets. But for the first time we managed to keep it peaceful.
And you were here when the demonstrations began, or were you abroad?
I was in France when it started. I had to go from France to Amsterdam to do a mural and a solo exhibition. But I managed to come in between my two trips to come for one day and do some interventions in the street.
Really? Oh, you came just to intervene artistically.
Yeah.
And then you went back to Europe.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because I thought it's a chance that I might not have later to be able to do whatever I want in the city.
Do you mind sharing what you did?
I think it's better. I'm sure what I did has been seen, and I hope people enjoyed it. But I don't want to claim it and market it, because it's not about me now. It's about something bigger. It's about Lebanon.
A giant soda fist in the middle of downtown?
No.
I think no could be yes.
No, it's not.
That's not that. Okay, yeah. Because that would be the most obvious. It couldn't be more obvious than that one. So there's a passion there. If you're willing to leave and come back for one day to express yourself artistically, and then leave again on a creative level, is this in a way a dream come true, that Lebanese are doing things the way you've been trying the last few years, where they're taking back public space, they're using abandoned buildings, not necessarily to paint, or not even necessarily to show art per se, but just using the space? Is that to you an achievement that Lebanese may have not thought of before as important?
Yeah, it definitely is. I've been working on the war monuments that we still have in Beirut for quite a while now, more than 5 years. And I've been tackling all the buildings that are still in downtown Beirut, standing empty and serving for nothing but to remind the people of the civil war, or for the post-war generations, they are just abandoned buildings that we don't care about, we don't see them. So I was highlighting those monuments, and each time in a different way, and with the hope that people can look at them again, and for the world generation to see them in a new, fresh perspective, and for the post-war generation to look at them and learn about what happened 30 years ago, for just to be careful not to repeat it again.
And I know that your previous achievements were with buildings that are not being used at the moment during the demonstrations, in particular Mur Tower and the Holiday Inn. But just the fact that people are using the egg now, and does it give you new ideas? So, I mean, the egg a month ago is the egg that we know, which is just in a way a tragedy, but a very charming tragedy, a small unused cinema that's scarred. But the fact that you have lectures there and you have people breaking into the Grand Theater and going to the top and looking at the mosaic tiles at the top, does it give you a new interpretation of these buildings as an artist? Do you see them now differently than you did a month ago?
I've always seen them as accidental monuments, as buildings that were built to have a function, like an hotel or office building or a cinema. But the fact that they were after the war abandoned and stayed in the same shape that they were during the war until today made them monuments, made them like out of context.
Right.
And we see them more, and we look at them more. I think not everyone maybe, but many people look at them. And yes, with what's happening to the egg is something big. I had too many projects in mind for the egg, too many installations I thought of for the egg. And I don't think any of them is better from what's happening now, like how the people are reclaiming it and transforming it into a cultural hub.
Have you been inside the egg?
Yes, many times.
And do people know you when you walk in? Do they know that you are this sort of...
Most of the people knows me from Burj Al Hawa project.
And they recognize you.
They don't know the face, but they know that they know about the project. They know about the installation.
They wouldn't recognize you among a crowd of people necessarily.
No, it doesn't happen. Like when I walk the street, people no.
But does that, in a way, allow you to keep doing your art because you're not the most recognized person? That you can still get away with doing things and people don't approach you and say, oh, we want you to do this instead, and you kind of retain some autonomy in your work?
Well, I don't plan it. I don't plan to be anonymous. Otherwise, I wouldn't publish anything or talk about any project I do.
Right.
But I keep it I keep it natural. If one day it happens, it's okay. If it doesn't, it's okay. I do what I do mainly to express what I feel being raised and growing up in Beirut.
Now, I want to touch on this. Growing up in Beirut, I'm going to just assume your earliest memories of Beirut are the end of the Civil War and maybe just after. And the 1990s is downtown right before Solidaire. And then, of course, we all know what happens later, that a lot of these buildings just disappear.
Yep.
And we have now a very different city as a result. Now, I'm going to go step by step here. What made you consider curtains for Burj El Hawa? Because that's not what I would think of when I think of... If it were my baby, that's not the immediate thing I would think of, although it makes perfect sense. So what gave you the idea for curtains?
In my previous interventions, the first interventions I have done, it was climbing on abandoned buildings, like the one you see next to the ring bridge, that is now covered by an advertising. I was climbing on those buildings using the ropes and transforming each missile hole and bullet trace into something else, using my characters that I draw since childhood.
I see.
This project, the first building I did next in Ashrafia, next to the Ring Bridge, it did an impact, but not as big as I wanted.
Yeah.
So I took it to the next level and did the same thing on the Holiday Inn.
The Holiday Inn, I mean, we were talking about this a little before, that you had there was some negative reactions to what you did, although that's the only reason I even know you, because I was so happy with what you did at the Holiday Inn. So we'll get to that a little later, because that's a story to itself.
Yeah.
But it's just you're drawing your characters on buildings, on walls, but then the idea of a curtain crosses your mind.
Yeah.
What takes you from childhood cartoon, caricatures to a curtain?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I started with telling you about the missile hole that I transformed using my characters, because this was what led to do the curtains later. When I did the Holiday Inn, as you said, there was many negative reviews and a lot of hate attacks on social media. For me, it was a shock, because imagine you did everything you could, you gave all your energy, even financially. I gave all my savings to do this project, and suddenly it turned out that many people not only don't like it, they hate it. And they are there were many comments that I didn't really focus on, but some of the comments I really took and built upon them, and those were the ones who said that who am I to put my style on a monumental building related to the collective memory. Now luckily many people also like what I did, and this makes me feel a bit better, but I didn't feel much better. I wanted something to make up, if you want, and do something that could reach more people and more people feel connected and related to. So that's when I chose something bigger than Holiday Inn, even more bigger than Holiday Inn. And what's more bigger than Holiday Inn than Burj El Hawa?
But so you wanted to, in a way, make sure people understand what you're doing. You wanted I
wanted to be reachable to more people.
More people.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in the Holiday Inn, but not the right way. You did it the right way. You went through the proper channels. You got the necessary permission to do it. I kind of just snuck in on my own.
Yeah.
And the Holiday Inn is one of the most haunting experiences, especially at night. And let alone, I mean, trying to get to the top is a journey in itself. It's a risky journey. One wrong slip and you fall. You took that as a appetizer to your main course, which is you decided to rope your way from the top down and dangle and start painting on the Holiday Inn. You risked your life.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I will never forget in my life. You know, I'm so happy I did it. It was so fun. And
but didn't people think you're crazy? Didn't they
Yes, but yeah, for sure.
Were people trying to get you not to do it?
Imagine just my family, when I told them I'm buying ropes.
I never thought about that.
To climb the Holiday Inn.
Did they sort of change their numbers?
When I saw the reaction of my father when I told him this, I said better not to tell my mom as well. It's better to for her to discover later.
That's funny.
It's something that directly they think he's crazy. Why is he doing it? It's an unnecessary risk.
Right.
But I don't see it this way.
You saw it as this is your work and you need to do it.
Yes, and I know it will do an impact, and it's one of the best ways for me to make art is to do it in the public space and watch the impact that it will do.
But going back just for a moment, you're a kid and these buildings start bothering you.
Yeah.
I mean, is there something there that is your family part of the story here? Your interaction with these buildings, is it simply your own interaction, or is there almost like a family story that I don't know about?
No, it's totally personal
it's just
story.
You.
Yeah, because my parents don't talk a lot about what happened during the war, like many people from the war generation, and And yes, I only grew up watching and living the war traces, like the traces that the civil war left us. For me, those missile holes and bullet holes are not only physical traces; they represent everything, all the corruption we're living, all the lack of the infrastructure and basic necessities. And yeah, it's something I cannot accept.
So, because I mean, you're saying your family were relatively quiet on those years. The silence let you maybe play with it more? Because I mean, a lot of families do not necessarily tackle the big issues, but they do talk endlessly about the war and they express their opinions, and sometimes it's bordering on myth and fiction. But is it because there wasn't that much conversation anyway that you kind of started talking to these buildings on your own? Is there something there that are you I mean, do you think of these things not because I know you said negative,
Yeah.
but there are people that I dislike and they're part of my life.
Yeah.
They become characters in a way. Are these in a way just people you want to get out of your life, almost like a friend you'd rather not have? I'm trying to understand the personal relationship you have with these buildings.
Yes, well, I am like many in Lebanon, a victim of what happened after the war, which is how each city became for a political party, for a religion. And as a Christian, I was going to a Christian school. And all my family members were everyone in the family, like my cousins and my relatives, they all were with a specific Lebanese party, Christian political party. And I always thought that this is right, that we are the right people and the others are wrong people. And I grew up with a hatred towards someone I don't know just because I think I was brainwashed in this way. It took me some time to break free from this brainwash. It came through maybe movies or travels that I did. But once I managed to be able to see things from a wider angle and to understand that no one is right in this conflict that happened, I started intervening in the public space, hoping to show this to more people.
So you're really, this is an independent journey. You're not, I mean, there's no bigger agenda per se. This is just your relationship to Beirut.
Yeah. Now it's taking me far. My work has started to become more known abroad, and it's opening for me too many opportunities. So I started to travel more and spread my work and think also for other countries. But nothing is like working here, because here it's something it's the place where I grew up. So,
right. And it's where your art is most visible.
Yeah.
And we talked about it before recording, that there's almost a disadvantage of trying to portray Beirut abroad, even if it's simply an exhibition trying to reflect. There's nothing better than simply going into the building and artistically expressing it on your terms. You've been traveling and talking and reflecting about not just Burj El Hawa, but other things. Is there anything that compares to being here? I mean, is there any moment abroad where you're saying, you know what, I can do this abroad? Or is it simply I have to do that to make sure I can afford to do what I do in Beirut?
I enjoy both. I really enjoy both. Okay. Traveling is really nice when you discover new places, new cultures, new ways of thinking, especially when you meet artists who works on similar themes from different places.
Yes.
It's very nourishing for the soul and for your mind, and it's really something I want to do more. But at the same time, as I said, working in Beirut is special because it's the place that I know the best.
But you don't see yourself as an artist in exile. You will. I mean, you need to be here.
I need both.
You need both.
Yeah.
You need both.
Yeah.
Do you think, as an artist today, I mean, you have a degree from Lebanese University. You are maybe the most visible hands-on artist in Beirut. Do you see room for artistic expression in its true form? Not just what you're seeing by chance now among protesters, but I mean a real celebration of art. Do you see that in the mix, or is that kind of an issue that Lebanese do not really care about enough? Because I know too many people that seek their dreams away from Lebanon because their dreams cannot be fulfilled here. I'm just wondering what you think about it in art and Lebanon today.
Yeah, I think definitely in Beirut, the art community or the people who follow art and want to know and are curious about knowing more about art are not many. But this should be a motive for me to make more public art and try to educate more people who don't think, because unfortunately today art became something for the high level society, but it shouldn't be. It should be for everyone to see and enjoy and understand.
The location of art tends to be Saifi Village or Jemmaisi. And neither are really the average person can go and just appreciate it. It's an upper class sort of although you do see it now and then other places. Sometimes in Surso they do try to
luckily we have some museums and some galleries that are open to anyone to go and look, and it's nice that it's getting more and more. Like the last 10 years we had many galleries opening in Beirut and many also street artists appearing and I think the art scene is becoming better and better.
And you've seen that change in your life. You've seen the art scene sort of grow gradually.
There's people like Philip Starck, the famous designer, who is based in Paris, and people ask, like in an interview, they ask him why choose Paris? You can live anywhere in the world. And for him, he's in Paris because it's the place where whatever he do, even if he thinks this is the best design he can do, people will criticize it and will find things that he didn't notice in it, and this keeps him making better and becoming better and push him to make better things. So
is there a similarity to you that you see?
I see that Beirut is not easy. Beirut is a place where you get critics if you do something that is not needed in this specific time or place.
I'm gonna ask you a sensitive question. The 2 weeks that you had your curtains in Burj El Hawa, and you called it Burj El Hawa, I think, if that's right. Yeah. So you had it for 2 weeks, and you did your job. You went and you sought the appropriate approval. 2 weeks later, you have to remove the curtains. I want to just reflect on this. Your relationship to Beirut, your relationship to the building, maybe even your relationship to the government or to Solidaire, what you took from that moment. Because I know that took a lot of your time and energy, and you succeeded, albeit briefly. Just now looking back on it, what do you take from that whole experience, and has it changed you? And has it changed your relationship to Beirut and to your art?
When I did the Burj Al Mur, can I talk about it a bit, about the concept?
Please.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for the first time I didn't use the characters I draw since childhood. I used a material that people feel more related to, which is the fabrics that we see on the balconies of poor neighborhoods in Beirut.
Right.
And I installed for each window a piece, and when the wind started moving them all together, it gave a feeling of like the building is dancing with the wind. And for the first time, people, especially the world generation, were able to look at this building in a new, fresh perspective. This switch that happened in the mind of the people is something that exists in all of our minds, and we tend to forget it, and to forget that we can do this switch and look at things differently in a new perspective.
People were smiling from a special place. There were genuine smiles looking at it.
Yeah, there was people smiling. Yes, there was people calling me that I don't know, to tell me congratulations and thank you for what you did. I also got a message from someone who's Palestinian. Her dad was almost thrown from the roof of this building, and she couldn't ever look at this tower. And for the first time, she looks at it and smiled. So it was really, really nice to me, and its impact, it went so far. I got prizes for it in Venice, and I was invited to Dunkirk in France, Sicily, and Stavanger in Norway to install curtains on abandoned buildings. And when I see that...
it's funny that they asked you just to do the same thing. They said, we have a few abandoned buildings, could you help us?
Yes.
Sure.
So it's crazy that here they forced me to remove the curtains.
Right, they're calling you to fix their old building.
Yeah. But it's something I don't. It doesn't make me upset because I don't expect much more, to be honest, from Lebanon's government or from Solidaire specifically. Maybe I'm the first to do an intervention in Solidaire area, in a Solidaire property without their permission.
Yeah.
This could have been the reason for them to force me to remove it. I don't know what's the reason. Anyways, the installation survived 2 weeks, even though I didn't have their approval. And the impact, they cannot take from me the fact that I did it.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, you did seek out government approval. You did consult the army. So you did do it what you thought were the right channels.
Yes.
And you at least gave Beirut 2 weeks of joy.
Yes.
You know, I remember just being stuck in traffic and noticing it for the first time. It kind of came out of nowhere. And I noticed everyone around me also. So it wasn't just, it was a very visible intervention. Are you able to top that? Because I can't, I mean...
That's the problem with what I did.
Right?
In
you went too far.
What can I do now? You know,
what can you do?
It's a big challenge. The idea I had for the egg was boom, but the problem is...
I'm not going to spoil it because I think I don't want to maybe let people know exactly what you have in mind. But if you succeed in the second option, I think we're all in for a big treat. I don't know how you're going to pull it off.
Well, now I'm not sure I'm going to do it because it was one of the installations in mind to invite people to do what they are doing now. So there's no need anymore for this installation as much as it was before. So now what's happening to the egg again, it's the best thing that could happen, and I could have never imagined a better installation. So I think this is on hold or maybe cancelled for now, but it's a high standard I made for myself when I did Burj El Hawa.
I think you, I mean, it's hard to top. And 2 weeks, if you think about it, 2 weeks it's both short and long at the same time. It's short meaning that it's unfortunately it's an instant that Beirut got to enjoy it. But it's also, I mean, it's a big success when you're battling something like Solidaire and you persevered for 14 days. So in a way, it's two things. It's short-lived and it's also long enough for us to remember it. I think, and I say this on somebody my age, post-war generation, I think it's a shame there aren't more people like you doing this. And I wanted to ask you, what needs to change so that things like this can be done on a daily basis, becomes the norm? 30 years ago, the Berlin Wall fell. And the Berlin Wall fell with a lot of expression, a lot of creativity, and I mean, not just the wall itself, but Berlin is known as an artistic hub. Many prominent Lebanese artists go there and they celebrate their work there. I don't see any reason why we should be less than them. Maybe we should be even more. We've suffered, in my opinion, as much, if not more, than Berlin. In the last 30 years, we're finally addressing all those problems. But in terms of art, what would you like to see changing in Beirut so that these ideas are not just accepted, but they're celebrated, and then Beirut can be known for work, known for art like yours? Would you like to see the government do something? Would you just expect people to demand more? And if you were given the keys to this, what would you do?
For sure, we need more support from the government. We need the government that think the culture is something important. This is already we don't have. Maybe the budget for the Ministry of Culture is the smallest budget.
Is that true? Yeah.
Maybe, but they always don't have money. Like for the Venice Biennale, where all countries have a pavilion, we usually don't have a pavilion because the government cannot pay for someone to represent Lebanon. So it has to start with the public institutions, and
I mean, is it beyond Beirut, for example? On occasion, they celebrate art, or surso. I mean, would you expect something on a bigger scale to take hold?
No, the government could also support projects that individual propose, and because we have many talents and many people want to do projects, and they don't know where to go and how to get the help. So this should be something organized by the state, by the government. And unfortunately, there's nothing like that, and we don't even know that the government should be doing this because it was never like this.
So it falls into just the general failed state, that it's one of many things that doesn't work in that sense.
Yes.
But it's shocking that you spent your own money on these projects. I mean, you put your own savings into doing this on your terms. That's crazy.
Yes, crazy. I did it because I believed in it, and I know the impact that I was able to see, the impact that it will create. I think what's happening also with the revolution now, it's a big step towards improving creativity or more interventions in the public space, because now even the people who never thought or imagined themselves spraying in the street, they are writing with spray cans. So
right.
This is really, really nice to see.
It seems like the youth is taking charge of this whole thing, whether it's through technology or whether it's through the art brush. I mean, it's a youth-driven. Even the chants are youth-driven. Yeah. The expression is very vulgar sometimes, but funny too. And I'm trying to imagine a Beirut without the war. Let's assume Burj El is finished. The Holiday Inn is turned into a new hotel. The Egg is complete and it's a cinema. And the Green Line is gone. What would you do? What would your art be if the civil war is over, if the scars are gone?
Yeah, I cannot imagine. It's something I have to be born in a place that didn't have war to know this, you know.
So in a way, you need Beirut to remain scarred to a point, so that you can keep expressing yourself in art in Beirut.
I imagine I would have worked on other topics. Like when I see artists who grow up in a peaceful place, I see most of the themes they work on are completely different from what I do. And I imagine I maybe would have been doing something related to climate change, or maybe related to, I don't know, subjects, capitalism, you know, I don't really know. I didn't have the chance to grow up in a peaceful place. So this is where I am. This is what I have in front of me. This is what influenced me the most, and I work with this. Yeah. So, yeah, it's hard to imagine.
And it's also hard to imagine any other city like Beirut, 30 years after a civil war, and it still retains two things. It's civil war, and also its reconstruction gone insane. Because next to Burj El Hawa, next to the Holiday Inn, you have brand new shiny buildings. Yeah. And sometimes they're touching each other. You have the Phoenicia, which fully renovated with a new building. And I mean, I always think it's funny. I don't know what it's like to stay in the Phoenicia, spend all this money, and then get not the beach view, but the Holiday Inn view. Yeah. I mean, they're right next to each other. Yeah. And the proximity is so close. And Beirut is both. It's very rich and very, very tragic and very scarred. And so in a way, maybe a lot of us that try to work within Beirut's story, we always, without realizing it, we're trying to heal wounds that maybe cannot be healed. And I think Burj El Hawa may be with us for the rest of our lives. I mean, it may stick around. Yeah. And I think your intervention there was probably the only time it's actually been alive. I think that's going to be it. But I don't know. If you don't top Burj El Hawa again, maybe you can go back in. I mean, beyond the curtains, I don't know what you can do, but I think
I wanted to lit it. There was a plan to put projectors randomly on some windows that could lit at night, and when the curtain moves, the light will become stronger and then softer, stronger then softer. And unfortunately, when they saw the curtains, I couldn't enter the building anymore.
So this is not a finished project?
Yes. There was still the light, and I had the projectors ready at the shop. I was going to buy them, and I got the call of the call that tells me that you have to remove.
That's crazy. So the fact that you can't top yourself, but it's not even as crazy. It was meant to be crazier. It was meant to be more.
Can you imagine if I lit at night? But maybe one day. Look, many people in power really like the installation.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that because of what you're doing, the average student maybe sees some space for them too. So maybe all it takes is just more assertion. Because had you not pushed, Burj El Hawa would have never happened. Or had you not been willing to risk your life in the Holiday Inn, we'd never have seen your work in the Holiday Inn. I know a painter, Tom Young. He did paintings of the Holiday Inn in the Holiday Inn. It took him a year to secure permission for 1 day. 1 year, 1 day. But that's a lot of courage, a lot of perseverance. I think that's how you break down this wall. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah, I totally believe, and patience is needed when you work in the public space. Like I don't work in the studio as much as in the public space, and this is not an easy thing because yes, you have to deal sometimes with permissions, and you have to be patient. Like Christo took him 9 years to cover the German parliament. He tried 3 times to propose the idea, and it was always rejected. And after like a long time, after 9 years exactly, he got what he wanted.
But that says a lot because it's taken over 30 years for Beirut to revolt against the post-war order. So maybe art is part of that story, that it takes as long, because we're all in this together.
Yeah.
From the corrupt to the people fighting corruption, it's all been a very slow, very, very taxing process. I'm guessing as an artist, it's also equally frustrating.
Yes, I think also what happens in the city, in a way or another, the timing of the major installations that happened in Beirut should somehow be related to the events that follows. In the 1990s, Nada Sahnawi in the Martyr Square, she installed the toilet seats.
Right, I remember that. That was not in the 90s, that was in 2007, I think, or 8.
Yes, and it really represented what is happening after the Civil War, the shit we are living, you know. And then when Burj El Hawa installation came out, not long after, a year after, a revolution starts. I think the timeline of the major installations that happens, in a way or another, are related to what happens after. We today, after 30 years of the Civil War, the post-war generations are becoming majorities. And we don't want to follow war leaders like the war generation have done, you know.
That's true.
And that's one of the main things that created this revolution today.
It's because they don't want to go back to the war.
Same war leaders are the politicians today. We don't want them.
Yeah.
You know. They are like Burj Al Mur and Holiday Inn, our politicians. Just a reminder of the Civil War.
Now I'm gonna then take it a little step further. You said that the buildings bother you. Do you think, in a sense, the Lebanon you grew up with also? I mean, is it?
Yes, definitely. I hate myself when I remember that I was going to protests for a Christian political party. I cannot imagine doing it today. It's something I had to go through, but it happened just because I was born in this house in this region of Lebanon. If I was born in the second or the opposite region, I would have been the opposite, you know. I just cannot.
So you broke free on an individual
level. It's kind
level.
of my way of breaking free when I do those installations. Yeah.
Yes, and you keep playing with the wounds the right way. And I think anyone who thinks that you're adding to the scars is misguided. I think you're just putting on large pieces of Band-Aid that are colorful and accessible. And I hope you do more of this, because I try telling Beirut's story. I mean, I spend 4 hours giving a tour, trying to bring these buildings back to life. And I succeed to a point, because it's literally just a 20-minute story about a very, very sad, tragic tale. I never imagined the Burj El Hawa, the trade tower that was never finished, to be something I point at on the tour and then be like, that's actually not so bad. Actually looks nice. So you did some justice to yourself and to the city. I hope you do more of it. I'm honored to be in your studio, and I mean that. And if I'm ever invited here again, I'd like to just maybe get a feel for what it's like to enter your mind and maybe watch you, and then maybe I can do a bad version of it on my own and then never show it to anyone. And I'm really happy that the curtains are with you. I thought about that. What happened? And I know they're in good hands. They're with you. And that you take them with you when you try to show it abroad.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time, Jad.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thanks. Something standing, just spreading bad thoughts and bad vibes around.
So you're really just fixing a personal problem that they bother you, and you want them to bother you less.
Yes, maybe yes, but luckily, it's many people are each one is like كيف بيقولوا إنه بيتواصل feel related أو.
I mean, I think people relate to these buildings
differently, depends on their own.
Sure. Yeah. So they see something else maybe when you're seeing something else too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to push a little further. Why do they bother you? Because most people that live here, growing up now, they don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
But you see them.
I see them, yes.
And most people drive by the Holiday Inn and they stopped even noticing it. It's the biggest building in Beirut.
Yeah.
And it's almost invisible to the average person in their car. Burj El Hawa is just because it's tall and surrounded by lower buildings, it stands out.
Yeah.
Right? It's an obvious sort of tower. But people got used to it, and I think most part, we know it's there, but we don't see it.
Yeah.
And just that, it doesn't bother enough to even care. But why does it bother you? What is it about these buildings that makes you want to change them?
Besides the negative thoughts that it makes us think when we see them.
Negativity in terms of war, sure, and damage, but what do you see when you see the Burj El Hawa?
I see them out of context. I see them like something that shouldn't be there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be there, meaning that they were never finished, and therefore, like Burj El Hawa, because it's not finished, it should have been either finished or torn down in that sense?
Well, if I wanna look at it as an architectural point of view, it's still out of context. If I want to look at it as because now it's for me it's not a building, it's like a big installation in the middle of the city. Like you have in Paris Eiffel Tower, you have in New York Statue of Liberty. Yeah. We have Burj Al Mur, which is just standing with its ugly 400 black windows.
I never even thought of that. That's our Eiffel Tower.
That's our
Statue of Liberty.
Unfortunately, but yeah.